Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to Today in Bitcoin. Today is June 27th, 2017. This is home of cryptocurrency straight talk. No fancy setter graphics, just information. And today we have a very special guest who has all sorts of great information. You love him. It is Andy Hoffman of Miles Franklin Precious Metals. Andy Hoffman, welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. And I also need to remind everyone, I was your first guest going back. It was probably only 6 months ago, and look at what you've done since then. You've become the best show on the planet with every amazing guest you could possibly manage from all over the world.
Why, thank you for that awesome compliment. And yes, you first came on the show in January. And in fact, the last time you were in the show in April, right before I left for Cyprus, you're like, I will return when you have 7,000 subscribers. Well, now I almost have 9,000 subscribers. So things are going a lot faster than we ever could have imagined. And I'm proud to have you on again. You're an awesome guest. Everyone's pumped. And I'm just happy with the way everything's been going here in the cryptocurrency space for all of us. So before I actually get into this, people have constantly asked about these shirts. You can links below to get them. And of course, links below to get the Trezor and all the important storage devices. So always check out those links below. Use the Meister discount code at Cryptograffiti if you want to get these cool shirts like this. So Andy Hoffman, what is on your mind? You had mentioned Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, everything to me. So just go at it.
Well, several things. First of all, that was great that you had that show with Joseph because, you know, we talked about last time, you know, like I say with gold, the best way in silver that you can understand how valuable it is to simply hold it in your hand, especially if you hold like a coin and in one hand and a quarter in another, and one feels like a feather and one is very heavy and you realize what it took to get it. And the same thing goes with sending or receiving Bitcoin. Once you send it or receive it, you realize how much easier it is than the fiat currency system. And when you realize how valuable those storage devices are and how they can change your life and change the world, it's just, I can't, especially now with all that's going on and you have your potential, you know, forks and all this stuff and all the exchange hacks and Ethereum and all this stuff. It's just so important that you store your crypto effectively. And I was also going to say, you mentioned when I was back on the show last in April, it was actually April 26th, and you had 5,700 subscribers, and I predicted that you very quickly would have over 7,000, and here we are just 2 months later, and you're almost at 9,000. But just to give people a perspective, because everyone's kind of freaking out right now because you've had this massive crash in the cryptocurrency markets. Back on April 26th, which is just 2 months ago, okay, you know what the price of Bitcoin was?
What was it?
1,300. You know what the price of Ethereum was? $50. And the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio is 0.04. And one more question for you. What do you think the Bitcoin dominance was on April 26th?
It was higher back then, but who cares?
63%. 63%. So you're talking about since in 2 months' time, and you know, before this little mini crash here, the Bitcoin dominance almost was cut in half at the same time that the price tripled, which should tell anyone that's observing just how crazy this ICO bubble has been, or altcoins, or whatever you want to talk about it. So for anyone who's worried about this quote crash, consider that the price today of Bitcoin is about twice what it was 2 months ago, and that the price of all these ICOs that are crashing are 4 or 5 times as much, including what we're talking about Ethereum is 215 as I speak here. Well, that's more than 4 times what it was 2 months ago. So people really need to put these things into perspective because of how fast this space is changing. And again, it's not just changing because it's a bubble. It's changing because it's the most dramatic, world-changing technology that the world has seen since the internet itself.
Wow, you definitely put it in perspective. I wanted to remind everyone to pound that like button, first of all. But also, I provide links to Andy Hoffman below, including his Steemit page. Yes, he is on Steemit now. How are you liking that, by the way?
Oh, I think it's great. you know, in a big way, because look, I work for Miles Franklin. We're a bullion dealer. We've been around for a long, long time, and I've been with the firm 6 years, writing every day about precious metals, and that includes, of course, trying to incorporate the cryptocurrency theme into precious metals, which I've done exhaustively. But let's face it, when you talk about precious metals 24/7, and it was long before Miles Franklin that I was doing this, you know, it kind of gets a little old. I mean, I'm always looking for new angles, but it has been 15 years of precious metals. So it's a little exciting to be part of a new forum that is intrinsically or integrally linked to precious metals, and that they both have storage of value properties, but it's different and it's technological. And it's bringing people, I think, to precious metals the same way that Bitcoin, I think, is drawing people from precious metals. That's why I think it's kind of a symbiotic relationship that people will better understand as the times go by. But yeah, I've been on the Steemit for a while. I'm actually starting to make some posts just about cryptocurrency, just about my views on it. And I really think it's a fantastic platform. It has nothing to do with whether there's the added incentive of potentially earning rewards.
I want to point out to everyone that in the precious metal space, I mean, Andy Hoffman is the #1 voice for cryptocurrency in the precious metal space. In my opinion, at least, there's so many guys over there who aren't even willing to consider cryptocurrency. But I mean, Andy's taken it to a whole new level. I mean, he's just, you know, you're combining the two, and there's no shame in combining the two at all. I mean, you're willing to pivot when you have to pivot, and it's really exciting. And I think you're taking this lead. It is gonna, I mean, it's helping your brand a lot. I mean, people love it. People love it.
Well, look, you know what I learned long ago in the extremely, extremely difficult investment environment is that you have to pivot constantly. And that, you know, especially you look at what's going on in cryptocurrency now, to have pretended that it wasn't an opportunity was just as fatal as jumping in at the top without knowing what you're doing. And so you really have to consider these things. And, you know, when I think of it, what my role is, not just in my job, but my role is really the way that I view the blogging I've been doing for years is to educate people, and particularly about money, okay? And when you talk about money, there's no getting around the fact that cryptocurrency is a major participant entrance into the stage. And really, you know, even we talk about April. April is just when it really had its coming out party. When people in the world finally start to even look at it and realize what's going on. And all of a sudden, look at all the venture capital that's coming in. Some of it smartly and some of it blindly. But it's a big deal. And when it comes to precious metals, I've said forever, I mean, long before cryptocurrency, that there's not going to be a gold standard. Gold's best use case is as a store of value. And in Bitcoin's case, or cryptocurrency in general, it has the potential to be both a store of value and utilitarian day-to-day money. But between A and B, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's going to be a lot of bumps in the road, different kind of bumps than precious metals are dealing with. But the fact is, we're both fighting the same battle against fiat currency, which in my view, along with religious oppression, is the single biggest destroyer of humanity throughout history.
Wow, putting it in perspective there. Putting it in perspective. Okay, so let's get into this Ethereum thing. What's going on? What's going on?
Okay. Well, and again, I've written several posts on Steemit about this, as well as things I've mentioned. Look, when I write about in my blog, I typically talk more about the generic term Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. I don't really talk about Ethereum because it really is far from what I would deal with in the monetary world. But Ethereum and this whole altcoin, I don't even want to say bubble because all of it is not a bubble, but the whole excitement and craze about it, much of it is bubble-like. I mean, there are many, I go back to that NASDAQ bubble where there were some major winners, some winners that have just completely taken over the world. And there were a lot more major losers, and there wasn't a lot in between. And then again, of course, you have some of the major winners that haven't even come into existence yet. Like there was no Google or Facebook back in the late 1990s. So again, it is the Wild West. It's also unregulated, and you've had a giant move up in terms of absolute and, of course, relative to Bitcoin, which we'll get to in a second. So there's a lot of buyer beware going on now. It's kind of like in the precious metal world. I've you know, for a while, I was upset with Bitcoin stealing my thunder. but I no longer obviously have that fear anymore. But a lot of us people in the Bitcoin world have been irritated with Ethereum, because all of a sudden this thing comes out of nowhere and it's funded by, oh boy, JP Morgan and the mainstream and the venture capitalists, and they all love it. But you look at it and you go, but it's not proven. When I started really buying Bitcoin 18 months ago, Ethereum was barely around, and most of the other ones weren't even in existence yet. And all of a sudden this guy, this upstart, is going to pass Bitcoin and have a flippening. And meanwhile, all the smart people, because look, people like us, all we can do is talk to the smart people. We're not tech guys. I wasn't an oil guy or a mining guy, but I talked to the smart guys. And the smart guys say Ethereum has potential, but it's a brand new technology with lots of flaws in it. And meanwhile, it's surging and it's pulling up all these other ICOs with it, to the point where it even caused Bitcoin possibly to surge more than it probably would have. And now a lot of that is unwinding, and we'll have to see how much of it is because Ethereum is in fact not what it's made out to be, or if it's simply because we're having a correction. So there's a lot to be gleaned from this. But the big thing that I'm watching right now is, look, in the early stages of this drop, everything is falling immediately. You have a whole bunch of these crazy ICO guys who took their ICO money in Bitcoin and Ethereum, not in capital. And then when these markets go down, they have to sell it. But as it's kind of settling out now from the initial drop, you're starting to see that Bitcoin dominance index move up pretty sharply. It was 37% 48 hours ago. It's back up to 44% right now. And I think one thing you're going to see once this all fails, and I'm not even dealing with scaling issues right now and what might happen in the next few months, I think you're going to see Bitcoin move to well above 50% again, because people are going to realize that they were investing in things they didn't understand, that have no track record. 9 years is a long time for Bitcoin in technology as a track record.
Yeah, these other players have yet to be tested like Bitcoin has. And now Ethereum, as the clear number 2 out there, at least in the mainstream, it's in the spotlight. And things like this, when you put yourself in the spotlight like this, you're going to be prone to being shot down also. You know, there's highs and there are lows. And I believe that a lot of what's going on today in terms of the money flowing out of Ethereum is because it is in the spotlight, and people are like, well, wait a second, what? It sort of broke the other day. What's going on with this GDAX thing? And then it's also pulling down other altcoins, because like you said, although Bitcoin's price is going down, everybody's price is going down. Bitcoin's price is going down at a much slower rate than all these altcoins and stuff. So we'll have to see what happens here. Again, I'm a Bitcoin long-term guy, so all of this stuff really doesn't matter that much to me personally in terms of my own, holdings. But there's so many people out there who have put so much into Ethereum now that, yeah, they need to hear, what's going on. And in a sense, I don't know. In a sense, I think some of the stuff that I'm saying here should be reassuring to the Ethereum people, because again, it's in the spotlight. The GDAX thing clearly brought it down, but GDAX having a crash is not Ethereum having a crash. Now, all of these ICOs being questioned, well, that does question some of the underlying value of Ethereum, because up until this date, the major use case of Ethereum has been creating ICOs. I mean, that's what it is right now. And right now, people are starting to question this ICO model.
We'll put it this way, right? The big issue with Bitcoin, according to the common knowledge at this point in time, is scaling, right? And so the other big issue, conversely, the reason why theoretically you should be going into Ethereum is because it's going to do what Bitcoin couldn't do. It's going to be, if Bitcoin has scaling problems, well, they don't have scaling problems. They're fine. The point is, what we've just learned this week is they have massive scaling problems, and they've barely been in business for a while. And it's really just this one use case. Remember, I mean, according to the Ethereum people, Ethereum's got 1 million possible use cases. But right now, this is just this one use case, which has caused it to overload the system. What about when it's trying to do all the other use cases? I mean, look, we've listened to Andreas, who said, and he knows more than anybody, he said that Ethereum scaling issues will be dramatically more than Bitcoin. It's a far more complex product. So of course they're going to have these issues too. So when you consider the fact that out of nowhere, principally based on a use case, which is extremely speculative, that it almost got to the market cap of Bitcoin within, really, I told you, it was a 0.04, and it went up to 0.16. It quadrupled its relative dominance against Bitcoin in 2 months. Well, it had to come back down, and all it takes is something like the GDAX and the clogging up of the system. And by the way, you know, the other part, if you're going to have a market cap that large, and I guess compared to in today's hyperinflationary world, 30 billion is not that much, but in this world, it's a lot of money. And if you're going to have that kind of market cap, you better as hell have the liquidity to support it. You can't, because again, you start to think of vanity statistics and these kind of things. If one person could put in an order that takes down the entire bid attack on the bid, all the bids in the largest exchange, it tells you it's pretty thin to start with. That would never happen in Bitcoin because it has 9 years worth of track record and 9 years worth of global users that provide liquidity for it. So again, you know, this was a much too early speculative jump, and as a result, it's going to come down in relative value. But again, it has nothing to do with whether Ethereum is going to succeed in the long term. Again, if Bitcoin's 9 years is a long track record, I mean, Ethereum has been around really as a functioning entity for maybe a year and a half. And most of the other guys have only been around for a month and a half. So I think that's, you know, we talk about early days. This is an early days growing pain, but what you're going to see as this shakes out is the dominance of Bitcoin in the space. And again, there's really, as far as anyone looking at cryptocurrency in general, there's 2 general use cases. 2. Yes, they all have specific. I do governance and I do private stuff, and probably all this stuff can be rolled into Bitcoin eventually when they scale anyway. But there's 2 use cases for crypto. One is as day-to-day utilitarian transactional money, and 2 is as a store of value. That's it. That's the 2 reasons. And so they're all going to be competing in different spaces. Ethereum is definitely not competing as a store of value since it has an infinite inflation monetary policy. It's really competing with Bitcoin for things that Bitcoin hasn't yet tried to do, but probably will be able to do, and probably many others will be able to do as well. But when it comes to the store of value part, really, unless Bitcoin shoots itself in the head, unless the game theory completely plays out in a way that should never happen, and there are actually people that can succeed in destroying the undestroyable, then it has an insurmountable lead in the store of value space. That really, I mean, aside from like quantum computing that can break the SHA-256, which I'm sure the developers can counteract, you know, there's no way that that's going to be beaten unless Bitcoin destroys itself. And I agree with you 1,000%. I just don't believe it's in anyone's interest for this to happen. Because when you think about it, look, I don't know the math of mining and fees and all this stuff, but let's face it. I'm going to ask you, okay, Adam, if I said, okay, guess what? You can have one Bitcoin event happen today. Be the most bullish thing possible. You get to pick it and it'll happen. What would be the event? I know what my event is.
Well, if Segwit started, if this was the day, if Segwit was implemented today, if it just started.
More specifically, if Jihan Wu put out a tweet that says, as of today, Bitmain is supporting BIP91, the original Segwit. We are going all in and telling all of our partners to do it, right? If they did that, the price of Bitcoin would be $4,000 or $5,000 by tonight. Yeah. And I don't care what fees they get or whatever, or ASIC boost, they would definitely be better off for it. And by the way, the amount of people that would fly into it on a transactional basis would more than offset their fees. So that's why, just thinking about that, he knows this. He knows this. All his partners do. Everyone in the New York Agreement, they all know this. So for whatever the reasons that they're trying to hold off, they're going to back off. I don't believe for a second there'll be a hard fork. I think it's insane. I think that there are people playing games because it's in everyone's best interest, especially with this hyperinflating world, to keep the one chain.
I could not have said it better myself. I really could not have. We're definitely on the same page Because, both of us aren't technical geniuses here. We're just thinking logically. And these guys, they care about money. And logically, if they want the most money, we will get to Segwit, and we shouldn't worry about every little aspect of it for every day until November the 15th or whatever random day is chosen out there in the future. Let me go to something that you have written about recently. And I don't want to put words into your mouth, but you are almost like on a Tone Vays type of page, in the sense that you consider Litecoin the real number 2 in terms of cryptocurrency. Is that too much to be said, or what's your Litecoin take here?
Okay, 2 things. And one, this was actually in one of those posts that I just put up the other day on Steemit, and I'm just writing down so I want to make sure I don't miss it. Before I get to Litecoin specifically, this is what I've said about my prior life and current life, but more like my prior part of my current life. Look, when I got into precious metals in 2002, it's been 15 years now, I owned mining stocks. That's all I owned. Gold mining stocks, silver mining stocks, including a lot of very small ones, the equivalent of ICOs, okay? As opposed to Ethereum's, the, pot coins, right? All these things. And for a while it did very well. Then for many variety of factors, part of them being government suppression of the price, and part of it the immense risks that are dealt with in the mining industry. And I worked for the mining industry for 5 years, so I saw it firsthand. I realized, why do I want to own these things? The common thinking is, well, they're leveraged proxies, and if gold goes up, they'll go up 10 times more. But the thing is, they generally don't do that. Partly for all the reasons I said before, but it's a tough business. Way too many things can go wrong outside of the gold price. And so back in 2008, I started selling the miners, and by 2011, I was 100% physical. So that's where I've been for 6 years, and I'll never go back. In fact, I'll never own a stock in my life. I can guarantee you that. And certainly not a mining stock, because I don't need the risk. Because the way I look at it, when the gold cartel breaks, the price rise in gold and silver will be more than nearly any bull market you've ever dealt with. Why do I want the risks, the operational risks, the government risks, all these things of miners, when I could just own the real thing? And so, you bring that to Bitcoin. Obviously, I'm a lot more conservative person, and I'm older. And in cryptocurrency, I understand far less than I even understood about mining. So I'm definitely going to be holding the gold standard of cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin. And in Bitcoin, you don't even really have, in crypto, you don't even have really many choices. I mean, if you're going to say that Ethereum is the only large cap, let's call it mining stock, well, I don't think much of that either. I mean, it's incredibly risky and brand new. And then you go down the list of the ICOs with millions of these things, which they literally just came into being. So why people would want to have huge percentages of their portfolio in these things they know nothing about, which are more speculative than really any investment I've ever seen in my life, is beyond me. So I basically have held all Bitcoin. That's it. But we did say on one of our last calls, I did say that the only other one that ever has interested me has been Litecoin. I've called it, we talked about silver to Bitcoin's gold, simply because it is a clone of Bitcoin. It doesn't have the network. I mean, people aren't using it. I mean, I guess they could if Bitcoin imploded, but that's not going to happen. But it's basically a clone. That's what Charlie Lee did. He said, I'm going to make something just like Bitcoin. It'll have 4 times as many coins. So at the most, it would get to be a quarter of the price. That would be if it ever got the network effects. But the point is, it's a stable coin. That's why I wrote the other day that there are only 2 legitimate cryptocurrencies right now that I guarantee will be around. And definitely Litecoin will be around because they already have Segwit, so they can't even have their hard fork if they wanted to. So, I consider it a silver standard. So from a Bitcoin maximalist standpoint, it's kind of silly, because as much as people love Bitcoin as they should, it doesn't mean that nothing else can have Bitcoin-like qualities. It would be like saying that gold is the greatest thing that's ever been in existence, so I will not own anything, including silver. Well, silver is very much like gold. And actually, I think silver is much more undervalued than gold, but that's another story. But the point is, look, if Bitcoin does well, Litecoin's going to do very well. I mean, very, very well. And, I mean, forget Tone's. I don't even think Tone likes Litecoin. I think he just thinks it's not a scam, which for him is is a big deal. And I kind of think in the same way. So I do think that it's a good little hedge if you're going to own Bitcoin. And I do think, look, if you think Bitcoin's going to be $10,000 by the year 2020, I guarantee you Litecoin is going to be a lot more than $40.
All right, there you've got some people, you know, it's funny, every video that you do with me, you have more and more to say about these altcoins. I remember originally people were asking in the chat like about Litecoin and stuff, a past video you've done on here, and you didn't have much to say. Now look, I mean, people, you're getting your answers now. I mean, Andy is constantly, expanding his knowledge base. So the 200 live viewers that are out there right now, pound that like button if you are enjoying this Andy Hoffman video like I am. Well,
you know what? It's the most exciting thing to me about my career in general, or I mean, I wish that anyone could have career or careers as I've had, is the ability to find new things that excite you and to learn about them and to figure out ways to capitalize on them. And it's kind of like from, you know, I was, you know, in the Wall Street business doing a couple of very simple things, not particularly exciting things, until I came across oil in 1995 and I saw the upside potential. It was like, at the time it was about $15 a barrel, and I went full in and had a whole career, and all I did was learn about oil for years and years and years. And but by the time I was done with my oil career in 2005, I was bored of it. There was nothing more to learn. But by then it was, you know, 2002, 3 years earlier, I had learned about precious metals, and I couldn't have been more excited. I spent years and years and years, all I did was research and learn and network regarding precious metals. And here we are 15 years later, and while I'm just as bullish on precious metals, I learned all there is to know. I mean, I'm out there every day scouring incremental information about what's going on in the world to help people understand the use cases of precious metals, but there's no more to learn. Bitcoin to me is a brand new discipline, which plays on exactly what I believe in about precious metals and what I feel about the world. And on every day I can learn something new, whether it's about altcoins or about the technology itself, or I mean, God, I have my, you know, it's like in my world, you have people with blogs and newsletters and even analysts. In this world, it's all Twitter. You have to find the smart people on Twitter, and that's my game. My Twitter list is up to probably 30 people. Yours is probably 100. You have to find the smart people. That's how you win.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't have said it any better myself here. Now, you mentioned something that gets some people excited on this channel. You mentioned silver. Talk a little bit about what's going on in silver. I'm giving all of you people out there who like cryptocurrency and like precious metals, here's a little taste of precious metals for you, because I know there's some specific guys on here who just love silver. So what's going on in silver?
Well, look, you know, we own Bitcoin because it's store of value above everything else. And again, you know, the thing that kills me the most about these guys like Roger Ver, oh, it's got to be the money of the world now. It's like, dude, nothing will be the money of the world until it is a stable store of value. No one will care about it if it's not considered a stable store of value. And again, from the game theory perspective, if you fork it, I mean, you could fork it and it doesn't work. That'll be the best case scenario if they tried to fork it and the fork failed. But if you do anything that breaks up the belief that it's a store of value, it will never be money. That's the problem with fiat currencies around the world. They have been destroyed by inflation, and no one believes they're store of value. That's why people are buying Bitcoin, and that's why they've been buying gold and silver for the past 5,000 years. And their store of value properties are unsurpassed by anything in history. And 5,000 years from now, I don't care if the whole world is digital, gold and silver will still maintain their value because they are scarce and have all of the properties of money, except for they're not good for practicality. You know, yes, you can own junk silver, and if we have a Mad Max world, you may be bartering in it. But generally speaking, aside from a Mad Max world, the use case for gold and silver has always been to store value. And in the case of, look, anyone who reads me every day, I write every day at milesfranklin.com. I do podcasts like this. I've been doing this 15 years. I am a global leader, probably in the top 5 of discussing market manipulation. There is no market that's more suppressed than precious metals, equally suppressed as the support that you get in the stock and bond markets by the powers that be that think that they can usurp economic mother nature by manipulating paper markets. The problem is with physical markets like gold and silver and, oh yeah, oil, that you can't pretend that oil price is high when there's too much oil, just like you won't be able to pretend for long that the price of gold and silver is a low price when there's a scarce amount of it, and it becomes more and more scarce. And right now, silver is more undervalued relative to the amount of money printed, relative to even the price of gold itself, and relative to the above ground available for sale inventories out there, and of course the outlook for money printing than it's ever been. So I've been, I just wrote about how the silver gold ratio is as undervalued as I've ever seen it, which is saying a lot. And I think it's the perfect time, because right now, while around the world people are buying hand over fist precious metals because their currencies are being destroyed, here we've got the Dow being held up every day, and everyone's telling you everything's great, even though of course it's not. Our economy's falling apart. So you have low sentiment here, and you're able to buy silver at very low prices relative to where they eventually will be. And there's really essentially no downside, because the mining business is falling apart right now.
Silver stackers and Vention MGTOW, that one was for you. Okay, so let's get back onto cryptocurrency real quick. You talk about coins surviving until 2020 and beyond. I want to bring up, and you talk about government manipulation. You talk about, I don't know, the privacy of the individual. Let's talk about anonymous coins here. Do you think this is something that we should all look into a little bit more? And in terms of longevity of coins, do you think if there really was truly an anonymous coin, that this coin, whether it be Monero or whatever, could be one of the survivors and crack your top 3 list maybe?
Well, put it this way. Again, almost every one of these altcoins that's out there doesn't really have a product. They have an idea. So it's no different than the dot-coms. You were investing based on the fact that everyone was into dot-coms, and they'd say, I have an idea for what will be a great dot-com. In fact, at the time, I was an oil field service analyst. I was at Solomon, and we were pitching for IPOs, all these companies that were going to do great things in the oil field service space. We're going to have online land auctions and online equipment auctions and all kinds of, but they're all just ideas. None of them ever panned out. It just doesn't work that way. So the concept of an anonymous coin is good, I guess, in theory, but you have to put it into practice, especially because every one of these things will have competition. Think how little resources went into the development of these ideas. And think of what they're going up against, okay? You're going up against, for instance, first of all, the entire Bitcoin community. You think it's kind of like people, I was talking the other day with someone about Tesla, and they're like, well, they got the lead in self-driving cars, and I'm going, really? What, you think that General Motors and Toyota and Mitsubishi and Google and Apple, they can't do self-driving cars if little Tesla can do it? So the odds of any one of these things actually becoming a colossus, or not just being taken out. I mean, at some point, Bitcoin could just, let's say, quote, take it out, or in this case, subsume it, or someone else could subsume it, or someone else bigger will come along and do it better. So again, people, when you are investing in altcoins, you are investing in a dream, okay? And especially because a lot of the market caps in them are completely fabricated. The liquidity is next to nothing, and almost all of them, you can't even sell them for cash. You have to sell them at these ridiculous shady exchanges for other cryptos. I mean, we're talking about, in my 28 years in the investment business, have never seen a more speculative environment, meaning things that have that much risk. Well, Bitcoin has enough risk of its own, but compared to these guys, Bitcoin is Google compared to a micro cap stock. So again, look, all these things are going to come into play. The world is becoming decentralized. That's what I wrote months ago. Decentralization is the future of monetary value, whether it's for storage of value or for money. Every one of these things is going to come into play. Governance, anonymity, smart contracts, all that stuff. But all of these things are highly, highly speculative. And bringing back my mining stock analogy, if we think Bitcoin is going to work, Bitcoin could be $1 million a coin or $100,000 a coin. Is that not enough? That's right. Is it not enough? I mean, do you really think if you own, let's say, Monero or anonymous coin, that you may actually do better than that without taking on any of the risks? I mean, you really, right now, people, to have any kind of big position in altcoins is, to me, as crazy and speculative and dangerous as anything you could do, because all of the things you're talking about are going to come into play over the years, and there's going to be big money and big players all fighting for it.
Wow, you're on a roll today. If you guys like what Andy Hoffman has to say, remember, check out the links below. Check out his Steemit. Get on Steemit. Follow him at Steemit there. He posts most of his stuff there now. It's an easy way to keep track of what he's doing. We're getting toward the end here, Andy Hoffman. I know you only have a limited time. What are some other things you wanted to bring up here on the show today? Anything that I haven't brought up to ask you?
Okay, well, how about this? Getting off of just crypto in general. Look, the world is a very dangerous place right now. This is probably the one area where I often do disagree with you, is the fact that I do think that we are headed for it's not even that we're headed, we're in a very bad place right now. We're talking about currency. The average currency around the world has lost half of its purchasing power since the financial crisis. The amount of money printing that's overt, meaning this is what the banks are telling you, as opposed to all the stuff that the Fed does secretly, is $200 billion a month right now. And what has it gotten us? Record low interest rates, but record high debt and record low economic activity. And there's a lot of geopolitical things that are only getting worse, and social unrest as a result of the weak economy and migrancy crises and all these things. I mean, these are the reasons that the inherent Ponzi scheme nature of fiat currency are accelerated. And that's where we stand right now. So whether you want to protect yourself with precious metals or Bitcoin or whatever you're going to do, you have to consider the fact that the economy of the world is going to get a lot worse in the coming months and probably years. The demographics of the world are only guaranteeing that that's only going to become more so as the West ages and the East outside of China does not. They're getting younger. And so you really need to protect yourself in all aspects of your life from a changing world. Look, if technology can change this fast, everything can change this fast, and it will. And thankfully, in my world, I actually focus on one of the best areas to protect yourself, which is in the world of real money. And I think that gold and silver have always been the best way to do it throughout history. And to me, the only thing that has come on my radar screen in my entire investment career that has any chance of being anything like it is Bitcoin. And I actually think it has a pretty strong chance of being just as much of a monetary asset as gold and silver. And that's saying a lot for me.
That really is saying a lot right there. I mean, Peter Schiff would never say that. I will tell you that a lot of those dudes are stuck in their ways, and all of us respect you for not being stuck in your ways and just able to just pivot. I mean, I said that at the beginning. I'll say that at the end. You got to be able to change with the circumstances, and you're clearly thinking and analyzing and taking in what is going on instead of being stubborn. Look, my last comment is, and everyone knows my signature piece, the first piece I wrote that really got my people's attention in this space, it was in May of 2016, as in 13 long months ago in technology world, where I said it was called Precious Metals and Bitcoin, dual destroyers of the fiat regime. We are fighting the same battle. We are fighting against anyone who's buying Bitcoin. Yeah, you're fighting against the decentralization of the miners. You're also, more importantly, fighting against the money printers of the world who are actually the reason why Bitcoin was created. It was created as an alternative to this destructive system. And any way you can to help destroy that system is going to help you to survive and thrive, and the world to survive and thrive. And that's why I think that gold and silver will always play a role in preserving value throughout generations, whereas Bitcoin actually has the ability to become the next new money of the world. And I really believe that maybe it's 3 years from now, maybe it's 10 years from now, but it's going to become a major monetary force. Well, I agree with that sentiment. I think it is a good way to conclude this interview. Andy Hoffman, thank you very much for being on the show today. You will be back, I am sure. Absolutely. And thank you for everything. Let's see, one more prediction. Let's see, you're at 8,700 viewers right now. Subscribers, I have 89, like close to 9,000. Yeah. Okay. I will make a short-term prediction. I'm going to make a prediction by the end of this year. And by the end of this year, I predict you will be at 15,000. Cool. People judge channels by how many viewers they have. I don't know if those numbers are always accurate. I'm just, what makes me happy is just each video seems to be growing and growing in popularity. I get so many more people contacting me. I have so many more people wanting to use my services, my consulting services, my Trezor services. So those numbers are really pumping me up. And I just see there's just a lot of excitement out there.
Yes,
So,
believe me, there's a direct proportion between the things you just said and the subscribers. That yeah, unless it's all bots, and I doubt it's bots, people are clamoring for good information. It is so hard to find in this space, and fortunately, little by little, that good information is getting out there, and this is one of the great sources of information.
Well, thank you very much. It's a huge compliment coming from you. I want to remind everyone that if you enjoyed this video, this interview, because this has been a great interview, pound that like button, seriously, so that other people find out about it. There's the more likes it gets, the more people that do find out about it. So this has been a great one. Tweet it out, people. Again, I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video. Do check out the notes section below, because you can get Andy's information there. You can get my information there. And I do post a new video here every day, even when I'm about to go to Hong Kong at the end of the week. Hopefully, I'll be able to continue to post a new video here every day. We'll get busy at the end of the week. Anyway, thanks a lot, Andy Hoffman. I will see all of you guys later. Bye-bye for now.